Thank you, Kaylee. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Albaum, and I'm the Federal CTO for ServiceNow. I'm really excited for today's conversation on artificial intelligence and how ServiceNow is already leading in this area, and how our ServiceNow solutions support agency missions, how we align with OMB requirements around AI and the President's executive order on AI. I've been at ServiceNow for a number of years, and before ServiceNow, I worked as a chief information officer in the federal government. I was a CIO at the Department of Agriculture and worked in CIO positions at other agencies as well. And the introduction of new technologies like artificial intelligence and generative AI into agencies is never done simply. It always takes time. It always is something that everyone has to become comfortable with. But we know that this is a really important technology, and it has the opportunity to change the way that we interact, not just inside our agencies, not just how we serve other employees, but how we serve our customers, how we serve other government agencies, and how people really benefit from government. So in today's conversation, we're going to talk about the way ServiceNow is playing a really important role in this critical transformation. As we get started, I just want to share our safe harbor statement. Long and short of it is, please don't make any investment decisions based on anything you hear us say during this presentation. We will be potentially making some forward-looking statements. Now, I want to get started by having a conversation about the ServiceNow platform and a brief overview of ServiceNow, so we're all on the same page as we get into this really important AI conversation. And for this part of our conversation, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Sergio Hernandez, to talk us through ServiceNow at its core. And I think the most important thing is to remember that ServiceNow is not a single technology. It's a platform. It's not a single product. It is a platform with lots of great capabilities. So, Sergio, please go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Hello, everyone. My name is Sergio Hernandez. I am a solution consultant here at ServiceNow, specifically supporting our Department of the Air Force team organization. And so as Jonathan alluded to, we are a platform. And the goal of what I want to do here at the beginning is just be able to articulate what it is that we do. And ultimately, the goal is that at the end of this conversation today, you guys can articulate what ServiceNow specifically can do for you all. Jonathan, you kind of started by saying, we got our start as an IT service management solution where we helped organizations within the IT department route work effectively. And since then, we've really grown drastically. Our capabilities have expanded, as you could see through this visual, to address a number of different use cases across an entire enterprise, so not just IT. Now, today we're going to be talking specifically about generative AI, and one thing I want to highlight here is that over the years, we've actually been building up those capabilities to get us to this generative AI point. In fact, AI and machine learning have been a big part of what we've been doing for a number of years now. So when it comes to ServiceNow, where is it that we usually start the conversations when we engage with organizations? A lot of what we see when we kick off those conversations is what you see here, right? You have a number of different teams and organizations. You have a lot of data that needs to move across those different teams. And there's also a lot of processes involved across those teams as well as within those organizations. And what I like to do is kind of summarize what we see in the beginning. So if you see, the first thing we see is that there are very unstructured and manual processes that exist across an entire enterprise. With that, organizations are using very legacy kind of tools, right? Whether it be an org box, a shared email, tracking things on spreadsheet or SharePoints, things of that nature. And ultimately, we understand that there are a lot of systems at play, systems of record that organizations need to use, especially when it comes to the government. There are government mandated systems that folks need to use. And therefore, there's a lot of swivel chairing going on between emails, looking at a spreadsheet, and then tracking everything against a system as well. So that's a lot of what we see. Ultimately, it comes down to people, processes, and data need connected. And that's what ServiceNow does through what we call our ServiceNow platform. And it all starts with the bottom layer that you see down there. And that is our core platform, which has a number of different built-in capabilities, one of those being, again, predictive AI and generative AI. we take those capabilities and we put them together through specific workflows that we've already pre-established on our platform that address very specific use cases. Whether you're part of an IT organization, whether you're part of a personnel and talent management organization, if you're on the operational side or on the finance and supply chain side, we've pre-built these different workflows using industry best practices so that folks can then engage with our platform. And that's where that third layer comes in through a number of different ways, whether it's through different portals that they're using, through third-party conversational tools such as Microsoft Teams and Workspaces. And you're going to see a lot of these different experiences throughout the conversation today. But again, what we're doing is we're bringing together different teams, different groups of people, different processes and data, and engaging them into our system of action, which is the Now platform. Now, today's conversation is really focused on generative AI, and that's what we want to talk about specifically. As I alluded to earlier, this is something that ServiceNow has been working on for a number of years to get us to this point. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of a different generative AI models that are out there, such as OpenAI's ChatGPT, Microsoft's Copilot, and they are all built to do a lot of different things, right? And ServiceNow, we also have our own domain-specific large language models, which attribute to our generative AI capabilities. And what I want to start by saying here is, we are an organization of structure and purpose when it comes to how we help enterprises. And that's the exact same thing that we're doing with our generative AI. So if we jump to the next slide, we are using our domain-specific large language models to address very specific use cases. The first one of those is being able to understand the intent of what a customer or an organization is trying to get at, right? And we have that capability built into our platform where it understands common everyday language to get to the intent of what it is that an individual needs. And you'll see some of that today. The other is being able to take that information and understand what needs to be connected or who needs to collaborate across an entire enterprise to make sure that ultimately, if we click on the next bit there, we generate content, or I like to say we actually enable you to generate action or take action items specifically on what it is that you are looking to accomplish, whether you're an end user needing to get some information, or whether you're on the backside helping, trying to address or help someone with an issue that they have. So that's just a very quick, high-level overview of what ServiceNow does and sort of how our generative AI structure is built out and what we can help organizations do. I won't steal anyone's thunder, but pass this on to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Sergio, for that great overview. One of the things that I find so intriguing is, in the prior slide, ServiceNow's got multiple approaches to generative AI. First, with the domain-specific large language models that you talked about that make ServiceNow operate, give the opportunity for ServiceNow to operate in a much more efficient way, because the generative AI can take on so many of the tasks that people do in ServiceNow today and generate resolution notes or generate knowledge articles, or do a really great virtual assistant chat or any number of things, generate code. And we'll talk about all those capabilities later on in the presentation. And the other piece of it is the connection to other large language models available in the wide world, and being able to leverage those if an organization is using a commercially available large language model like ChatGPT or something else. We can pull that intelligence into the ServiceNow platform to make it actionable. So again, ServiceNow is about being able to take action and doing it as intelligently as we can. And I think the approach that we've settled on with ServiceNow is one that's going to really resonate in the federal government, based on my experience and all the things we're hearing from our customers already, and there's customers that have already gone out and acquired these kinds of capabilities, including ServiceNow generative AI tools. So thank you, Sergio. I want to continue on in our conversation and ask everyone a polling question. So Kaylee, if you can launch that first polling question, we want to know, where are you in your AI journey? And I think this will be really illuminating as we continue our conversation today. All right. So as I shared in the beginning, introducing a new technology like generative AI inside the federal government isn't simple. And there's guidance that's required. And we have an executive order that I think most people are aware of, and guidance from the Office of Management and Budget. And we want to talk about this topic a little bit and really do our best to kind of demystify this executive order and how it impacts organizations. So to do this, I want to bring on my colleague, Jeff Browning, who is a government relations leader at ServiceNow. Jeff, why don't we have some results from the polling questions, and it looks like the vast majority of participants are researching AI use cases and, or beginning some adoption. And while we have a few that haven't gotten started and we have some that are using it successfully, many are in this research mode and slowly getting started. So to the rest of our presenters, as we have this conversation, let's keep that in mind. So Jeff, let's talk about the executive order on artificial intelligence. Thanks for being here, and want to begin with really a question about what does the executive order require agencies to do?
Sure. So the executive order itself was pretty sweeping, touches many parts of the economy, but relevant to this conversation, it requires OMB to issue guidance to all federal agencies that governs how they evaluate, procure, and deploy AI. That OMB guidance, which is M2410, was issued on March 28th of this year. It's now in force. It creates a lot of different requirements for agencies, which we'll get into in a moment. But that's really the policy requirement that we're talking about here, the niche of the executive order that's most relevant to today's conversation.
Yeah. So as we start talking about these things, chief AI officers, governance boards, what are we seeing as we have agency level conversations?
Sure. So agencies are required to appoint chief artificial intelligence officers. It can be the same person as the CIO, but it may be a different person. At bigger agencies, we're seeing that those roles are split. Sometimes you even have a deputy chief artificial intelligence officer. Agencies are also directed to establish AI governance boards, which consist of certain cross-functional stakeholders. They're required to create compliance plans and file those with OMB. There are some December 1st deadlines, which are relevant here, which agencies are racing towards. I would also take a moment to mention that while we're here to discuss ServiceNow's Gen AI capabilities, as agencies stand up these governance structures, the ServiceNow IRM product is also very ideal to operationalize the decisions that they make. And you can certainly follow up with the IRM business unit about that. Agencies also have to inventory their AI use cases. They have to determine which ones impact rights and safety according to certain criteria. And then for those that do impact rights and safety, they have to take additional steps to protect rights and safety. I would also note that the decision about how to interpret and implement this guidance, including the decision about which use cases impact rights and safety, that's up to agencies. We can't give legal advice. We can't say that if you buy ServiceNow's product, you're automatically compliant. But what we can say, and what we're laying out here, is that ServiceNow's existing AI governance and responsible AI practices align very closely with a lot of the themes in the guidance, and agencies can leverage that. They have to conduct impact assessments. They have to look at the anticipated risks and benefits. They have to conduct human training and oversight, which is a great fit. ServiceNow offers continuous learning on demand to all of our customers. They have to assess which decisions AI is not allowed to make without a human. Our platform certainly allows that. Certain types of cases can bypass or be configured to always fall back to a human. They have to provide plain language notification to the public when they're interacting with AI. ServiceNow also plainly notifies our customers when they're doing the same. They have to consider contracting provisions which incentivize continuous improvement. That also is a great fit for ServiceNow. As many people on the line know, we re-release our platform twice a year with new features, often in response to things customers have asked for. So continuous improvement is a part of our business model. You don't just buy it once, you buy it in all future versions for as long as you remain a customer. Agencies have to promote competition. There's concern about vendor lock. ServiceNow, as you know, connects with hundreds of technologies. We believe some of the best productive outcomes from AI will come from companies working together, not walling themselves off. They have to maximize the value of their data for AI. What you do on the ServiceNow platform belongs to you. Retaining the rights to your data is built into the DNA of the platform. So there are a lot of places where we align with the guidance here.
Let's jump over to this idea of risk management, because we know risk management is a really important element of introducing AI into organizations. And of course, government agencies have been using AI in different ways over time. As we talk about generative AI and some of the risks around hallucinations or lack of transparency, it becomes, even more important. But let's talk about risk management. And OMB is directing folks towards the NIST AI risk management framework. Talk about that for a minute.
Sure. So at ServiceNow, our internal AI risk and development policies are inspired by the NIST risk management framework. There are a lot of open questions right now. Policymakers around the world are looking at what the standards should be. There are open questions about if and when we will have an auditable hard standard for AI systems, models, and data sets. There are some things coming from ISO, some things coming from the OECD, some things coming from the EU. But as far as American leadership, NIST has done a great job with the risk management framework, which we think is perhaps more specific and executable than some of the other options that are on the table. And we are partnering closely with customers as they also adopt the NIST risk management framework, which they are directed to do by the OMB guidance, and as they contemplate questions that aren't even envisioned in the NIST risk management framework. We're also working through a lot of those issues with our customers as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Jeff. And other countries are doing similar things, and that may have an impact ultimately on U.S. agencies as well. But the ongoing monitoring, transparency, these are questions that we're hearing from chief AI officers as we're out there, and share a little bit about your perspective on what agencies are asking for and how you've seen ServiceNow respond.
Sure. I think, given the tone of the OMB guidance and where we all are, I mean, in government, in public service, with public funds come increased responsibility. People want to know if something goes wrong, could it have been foreseen? People don't want to be stuck there having put something into place that creates a problem. Inputs and outputs to AI are logged in the platform and can be used for analytics. That's very important, especially if you're at an agency trying to sort of log those things, look at those trends, especially considering the agencies are directed to do ongoing monitoring, evaluation, and mitigation. Also, as far as transparency and adequate performance standards, when you're looking through this from a procurement standpoint, ServiceNow's LLM model cards include plain language information for our customers about known limitations, risks, and realistic performance standards for our models. We really do a lot of work internally to align and make sure that we make that information available to customers. And we have very clear channels in place to respond to their more detailed questions as they're working through procurement and deployment and risk management. We have very good systems in place, and we would encourage you to engage with your account teams on that.
Well, I think that is, that's an important conversation for us to continue having, because when you look at the news and you hear people express trepidation about AI and generative AI, so much of it comes back to, well, we don't know how these models are operating, we don't know how they were trained, or they're trained on all the data of the internet, so the risk of a hallucination, of bad information, of making a bad decision is high. And we really feel that with the approach that we've taken with ServiceNow, with our industry specific, domain specific large language models that are based on ServiceNow data, we have the opportunity for to really describe where the data comes from and how those models work, and alleviate some of these needs and some of these concerns. And one place I know that you already touched on this briefly, but where this risk perspective comes up is in this idea of rights and safety. And talk about rights and safety a little bit more. What are some of the examples we're hearing? And you've already shared that ServiceNow may or may not be part of this. It's an agency determination, but just share a little more on your perspective.
Sure. So one of the things that agencies are directed to do this year is to, as we touched on earlier, conduct an inventory of their AI use cases and determine which ones impact rights and safety. Well, what is the standard for that? In the OMB guidance, there is language that lays out certain categories of use cases which are presumed to impact rights, and certain categories of use cases which are presumed to impact safety. Agencies are required to make a determination of which of those use cases that they have are presumed to impact rights and are presumed to impact safety. And then in those cases, they're required to take additional steps. Again, it's up to agencies to decide. We can't give legal advice. Some of them may ultimately decide that certain ServiceNow use cases, like Now Assist for ITSM, are lower risk. But again, they have to come to that decision on their own. We can't give legal advice. Even if they do decide that a ServiceNow use case is presumed to impact rights and safety, again, we have clear channels in place to work with them through that process, make sure their concerns are met. And one of the requirements here that's written in is real world testing, which I know there are a lot of questions there. What does that mean? Well, what I can say is that we do allow customers to conduct their own testing in a sub-production environment before deployment, which is also a really important thing here if they're going to be running through clones or their own data to see how things.
Jeff, let me build on this point. We can't give legal advice, but are there? I totally agree. But there are other legal considerations that we need to keep in mind, or customers need to keep in mind as we go down this process together?
Sure. And again, the primary one that I would give as a caveat is that interpreting and implementing the guidance is up to agencies. It is their prerogative. And again, we can't say that if you buy ServiceNow, you're automatically compliant. But the goal of this materials and these collateral that we've created is to educate customers on what our internal governance practices are, which are strong and which are cross-functional, what our responsible AI practices are throughout the model development lifecycle, because those themes are very relevant to the requirements in the OMB guidance, and agencies can leverage that. To the question in the chat, yes, and we would encourage you to speak with your account teams about that, about what those risk management protocols are, what they mean as far as functionality. And also what we have on our roadmap as this exciting world keeps to develop.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, we're coming to close to the end of our part of the conversation. So I have just a final question. As we're talking about the executive order together and customers with our internally at ServiceNow, where do you think that this is going to be going over time? Is this going to lead to legislation? Is it going to lead to some formal regulation? Give us a prediction of the future.
I think it could. I think that some of the biggest use cases in the federal government, when we look at really, look at the high impact service providers, for example, in the customer experience EO, these are people who are making enormously important decisions about anything from social security benefits to nutrition benefits that impact millions of people's lives. I think everyone knows that AI has the ability to potentially alleviate those burdens. But I think everyone also knows that, there are issues with the data, with how it's trained, with biases. And again, when we're talking about the federal government, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And so I think that is, an important part here of the public-private partnership between agencies and industry. We'll be having those conversations in advance about those risks, about those use cases, and working together to build something that is satisfactory to everyone, and that at the end of the day helps employees and citizens alike. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, but it does, Jeff. And it gives us something to look forward to or look towards as this space continues to evolve. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate you being here. I want to go back and ask another polling question on this one, specifically on the executive order. So Kaylee, if you can put up that polling question. How impactful will this be in your agency? Really interested to hear what people say. Okay, thank you. We're now at the point where I want to we want to get into the nuts and bolts of how ServiceNow generative AI capabilities are going to impact the platform and the kinds of opportunities it creates for you and your agencies to really streamline the way you work, to really transform the way government works. So I first want to ask my colleague Gus Pastor to join me on screen. Gus, thank you for being here. Gus is one of our leaders in the creator workflow space, and he is going to walk us through Now Assist for creator workflows. As you get started, though, two things. One, if you saw the answers to the poll question, the AI executive order is going to be highly impactful just about everywhere. So, Jeff, once again, thanks for that conversation, helping to demystify it a little bit. This is going to be part of an ongoing conversation. And, Gus, as you get into your presentation, you may talk a little bit about ERP. And we do have a question about ERP that we can chat about as you conclude your your section. So Gus, please take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Let's answer the ERP stuff after this because the domains are a little bit separate in concept. So I've been here at ServiceNow for about 4.5 years, and I've spent the entire time at this company espousing and teaching customers across public sector the benefit and the who, what, how, when, where, and why of building on the ServiceNow platform. Before coming to ServiceNow, I spent a lot of time in the open source development community. And one theme that's been consistent and true is that software development struggles to keep up and deliver on the expectations of the mission or of business. And kind of the exciting thing for me when I came over here is that low and no code operating software development on top of a configurable platform versus systems configuration really gave us the opportunity to decrease the barrier of entry to being a collaborator in the software development lifecycle. That in its own, though, brought with it its own issues. Customers have concerns about governance and how you put the right tools in front of the right people without interrupting software development. And they have questions about the validity, the security, the performance of the products that developers across a broad spectrum of skill sets actually produce. So the exciting thing from my perspective is that generative AI is going to become the great equalizer across software development on platforms like ServiceNow. It's still very much about a configurable system versus systems configuration. And what we're doing is we're going to automate and provide end users of development the ability to speak their outcomes into existence. The automation of this process is what's going to allow us to reach a greater pool of quote unquote developer resources. The important thing to note here is this is based off of ServiceNow best practice. When you're speaking these things into existence, it really depends who you are in an organization and the rights that you have. Remember that ServiceNow is role-based, it's governed from the ground up. That allows us to put the right elements of development in front of those people. And leveraging your investment in Now Assist for Creator, we're going to drastically simplify that barrier of entry to be a software developer. Now, the question is who does this impact? You have three real buckets of developers. You have core, true ServiceNow developers. You have high competency developers that may not know ServiceNow, but have skill sets in the arena. And then finally, on the other end, you have true no coders. Every single person in every single bucket is going to be able to benefit from leveraging generative AI to speak their outcomes into existence, whether that's a flow, an API, and an integration, or a full-fledged application in a later release. Really the ability to take your knowledge of a business process, of a government process, and to put it into a system that can then inherently create that outcome. It's going to drive a ton of velocity, and it's going to allow you to push ServiceNow into the far corners of an organization and tackle the backlog that sometimes takes a little bit longer to deliver on. I want to keep it short and simple there, and keep it at that, Jonathan.
Yeah, this is a tremendous extension of low code capabilities that ServiceNow has offered over time, and you've been, highly involved with a lot of our customers that have adopted low code. And one of the challenges with low code is always the governance around it.
Yeah.
And my experience is worth the effort to set up the right guardrails so you can push out this capability across an organization. We know the governance pieces can be hard, but the CIO office, and having been a CIO, I know this can sometimes be viewed as this bottleneck to getting things done. And you set up the right guardrails, and suddenly you have created some self-sufficiency. Does that change, you think, with the introduction of these tools? Does it change? Is there a important difference?
Yeah, I'll speak super honestly about it. There's this moniker out there around citizen development. I kind of push away from that. I think the right way to think about it is delegated development, because it brings with it the inherent connotation that the group brokering the service is ultimately in control. Governance is still hugely important. It helps tackle the cultural side of scaling development. So absolutely, like you're going to need to understand what your organization expects from developers. But all this does is make development more accessible. It is the next evolution of building on the platform. It doesn't change what's being built or how it's being built. It just changes the speed to which it's being built and what is the input. Before it was gather the requirements and then wait to be provisioned access to a scoped application, and then kind of cobble together the right types of flows and experiences, and then go through the code review process. The code review process is still there. Developers are still hugely important. But what this does is it allows you to select who the right person is and put the right tool in front of them. And now instead of dragging and dropping, they're going to be speaking and the system is going to be automating. So governance is still a huge part of it. It's inherent to the DNA, but the real acceleration is going to come into the productivity and the acceleration on the dev side.
And I can get things done faster. And if my less complicated applications are the ones that I can speak or type into existence, I can take available resources and deploy them perhaps to more complicated things. So it gives new flexibilities inside organizations that, may already be a little bit resource constrained. And, I think about, that as potentially being a huge impact, a huge game changer for how we staff our organizations and how we get our work done in ServiceNow.
Yes,
So,
sir.
you want to talk about ERP for a second? I know
Yeah.
that's an important topic for you personally.
Yeah, so I just moved over to spearhead this new initiative at ServiceNow around modernizing ERP systems. And I saw the question in the chat. I thought it was a really good question because we get it all the time. Is ServiceNow becoming an ERP? And the answer is unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, no. We don't seek to become an ERP. The fact of the matter is whether you're Oracle or SAP, Workday or otherwise, everyone is going through this journey of modernizing. But what we talked about and what Sergio covered earlier is we've created a ton of silos within our organizations and in the enterprise. You made the right decisions with the ERP systems you elected 10, 15, 20 years ago. But your end users, they need an elegant way of navigating the things that they need to do. ServiceNow seeks to be the workflow layer and to have a comprehensive integration and data strategy to allow you to leverage those ERP systems as a system of record and to elevate the customization in the business process up into an abstraction like ServiceNow, which is inherently more flexible and agile. We're not saying everything belongs in ServiceNow. Highly performant business process or highly performant systems like SAP, as an example, are going to have certain things that belong close to the power users, close to in memory. But you can get away with and achieve significant gains in terms of productivity and the ability to tackle the backlog using a generative AI or low and no code to provide this immersive experience that spans across multiple different systems. And that experience should also tie into where someone gets their benefits. It should also tie into requesting network access or around a laptop service. Like the goal is to consolidate the experiences and not force you to have to make an architectural or data propagation decision about where that data lives. And through some intellectual property and some advancements in terms of ServiceNow, we're providing a much higher rate of performance and throughput in the connection of those systems, allowing you to interact with data in ServiceNow, and then to mirror that data down into the ERP layer, just kind of bringing all this stuff together and not having to reteach and retrain users every time you have to introduce a new system or configure a system a different way. Let's consolidate that work, and that's what ServiceNow seeks to do.
And when it becomes that destination for application migration, application modernization, there's so many additional ancillary benefits, including what you said, better security, one place to go, less complexity of the organization. So there's so many reasons that agencies across government and organizations across the world are identifying ServiceNow as a core platform for application migration and modernization. So, Gus, I want to thank you. I want to jump back into the presentation. We're going to ask another polling question, everyone. Kayla, if you could put that up there. This one is on application development. So we'd love to hear from you all your perspectives on this topic and what Gus just shared. So next, we're going to move on to Now Assist for for technology workflows, or IT service management. And joining us is my good friend Chris Russick, one of our leaders in the technology workflow space. Chris, thank you for being here. And
my pleasure. Thank you, John.
Excellent. So, ServiceNow is known as IT service management tool, right? We're a platform, as we talked about at the beginning with Sergio, But we made our mark. And here, so let's dig into technology workflows, and you can see the answer to the last polling question. Highly impactful, moderate, and moderately impactful. Everyone sees an impact from having generative AI application development tools. So we're on the right track, as a company, I think, and the right kind of conversation. So let's go back to our founding IT service management on the ServiceNow platform. How's that evolving with Now Assist, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jonathan. So how is it evolving? It's a great question. And I'm going to introduce to you service operations as part of this use case today. And for those that don't know, service operations is the marriage of IT service management and IT operations management. And getting to the basis of ITSM, we all know that agents are using ServiceNow for ITSM and more often are required to read and interpret information related to incidents or problem tickets. And that requires a lot of time. It takes the ability to synthesize that information and make sure it's accurate so that people down on the receiving end can make decisions and take action based on that synthesized information. And when an incident arises, those agents need to quickly understand and resolve the situation rather than spend time searching for the root cause. So at the end of the day, this is about faster root cause analysis and faster break fix. So welcome to ServiceNow's Now Assist for ITSM. And here's maybe a big surprise for some people, but our customers been using ServiceNow's Now Assist via the AI Assist agents for several years now. And as Sergio alluded to earlier, that capability allows customers to use any internal and external data as desired, and what meets your policy, of course, to help draw better and more accurate conclusions. We also provide recommendations for these agents to assist those resolutions. So Now Assist combines the ability to draw from both types of data while giving the admins the ability to choose and synthesize what data set to use and by how much. What that does in the end is it gives the flexibility to tailor the capability to their use case while minimizing the organization to risk. Agent Assist also lays the foundation for IT organizations to pull from popular AI data sources. So when you're ready to integrate, the underlying capability is ready to go. And this, as a result, saves time and speeds resolutions by rapidly gaining contextual information that's not able to be derived any other way, and related to incidents and problems, so that agents can better tackle the same incident over and over without manually searching for that information. So how is this done? Oh yes, go ahead.
Real quick. That idea that agents can, move faster because there are resolution notes or there is information leading them to the right answer to hand somebody. Can you talk a little bit about how a ServiceNow customer would integrate that kind of resolution note generation or case closure or knowledge article generation? How that works and how they would have access to those kinds of benefits?
Yeah, so this might be related to incident, problem, and change. Knowing what changes have been coming down, maybe it's a patch update that happened last night that didn't go as well as we might have expected. And as a result of that information, what is the rollback procedure, or what's the fall forward procedure? So those are two quick examples. I also think about, from a knowledge management perspective, the federal government, many times there's policy that dictates that we follow a certain order in operations for performing an action. And when that's in the knowledge base, just having quick access to that in the summary, so that you have a predictable, repeatable approach to solving these challenges over and over, or hopefully less often as a result of using Now Assist for ITSM.
So we have a question. Thank you for that in the chat, asking for clarification. Person asked, "What is called an ITSM and ITOM married solution?" Did you mention something related to that? Can you elaborate, please?
Absolutely. So service operations marries ITSM and ITOM for a better together solution, and it presents itself in the platform as the service operations the service operations roadmap and platform. The frameworks in there. So you have the ability to understand what events are happening and cross-correlate those to how those events are causing outages and how those events are causing other changes, and what changes then need to precipitate and take action to resolve those events as well. So it's all built into one.
So we can dive more deeply into service ops in a follow-on conversation. If anyone's interested, please, reach out to us directly or through Carasoft, and we can talk in detail. The last thing I'd like you to share a little perspective on is the virtual agents that can that are enhanced through generative AI, the chat capabilities enhanced, and that's one thing that as more and more customers are using Gen AI solutions in ServiceNow, they're seeing as a way to really deflect incidents from a human. They're seeing opportunities to really restructure the way questions get answered. So talk a little bit about the difference. We've had virtual agents for a long time. What's new? How's it different?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And so, not just incident resolution, but also self-help and avoiding to have many people work on different requests. So from the request management process, and some of that information can come from both of those data sets that I alluded to earlier, or it can come from those knowledge articles and pull that information from those knowledge articles. So that if I do need to go in and, hypothetically have an integration with Okta or some other type of solution to reset my password, I've got the ability to go in there and it will help me go through those steps to reset the password, as well as it'll look and see maybe what I have not completed from a security training posture and recommend that I then take the security training so I stay compliant and things like that. So it's the ability to cross-correlate that information so that we have the ability to offer more to our customers.
Right. And I want to remind everybody about the slide Sergio shared about what ServiceNow is doing. It's our generative AI capability is understanding the intent. He's understanding the question Chris is describing. It is synthesizing information from a variety of places, like Chris was saying. It might go to a knowledge article. It might go to a training database. It might go to other places. And using that intent and synthesizing of all that information and creating something for you to react to, creating a recommendation, creating guidance. So we're really fulfilling, that model that Sergio shared, and this is an important way. In virtual agents in the past, you'd have to write out essentially a conversation. What's a likely question, and what's an answer, and those are very successful. We know that many customers use virtual agents highly successfully. This is an incredible evolution of that, where the information in the organization becomes the basis of that chat. And now I can rely on those virtual agents to answer lots of questions and help people, where I used to have to need an agent to do that, and I now have a new human agent. Now I have these virtual agents that can be a lot more adept at answering those kinds of questions. So it is very exciting evolution. I think a big change for us. So, Chris, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Awesome that you're here. I want to jump back in and move forward to our next polling question. So, Kaylee, if you can put up that next polling question. This is going to be on the value of AI and ITSM. Okay, thank you. All right, next, we have Matt Barrett, who is going to join us to talk about Now Assist for customer service management. Matt, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. I'm thrilled to be here speaking with you all today about how Now Assist for customer experience really makes it easy, simple, and fast for government agencies to drive mission successes by leveraging the investments that have already been made in the platform. But before I dive into, talk about Now Assist for customer experience, let me just kind of zoom out to the macro just for a quick moment here. if you look at analyst reports or reports from some of our largest partners, they're all talking about areas of opportunity for generative AI. And a lot of these are falling typically into two categories, right? Number one is how do we improve that citizen engagement experience? And the second is, how do we improve our operational efficiency and excellence? Gartner, for instance, surveyed 2,500-ish executives about their Gen AI initiatives, and over 40% are focused on that CX, customer experience, right? So the energy is there. And we're seeing that government agencies are really following in those footsteps. We all want to improve the quality of service for the stakeholders that we serve, also simultaneously driving that back office, middle office operational efficiency. And a lot of agencies, I think, are still trying to figure out, where do I focus? Do I focus on AI enabling my customer self-service channels first, or do I give my employees better tools to do their jobs? And really, the brilliance of Now Assist for customer experience is that it lets you do both. It can give agencies that easy button to drive key service delivery metrics, things like customer satisfaction, Net Promoter Score, first call resolution, while also continuing to improve the service delivery within the agency. And so, how do we do this, right? How does it work? Well, it starts by infusing AI into every customer and agent touch point. So beginning with a customer who's searching for information in a self-service channel like a web portal or a mobile app, and having generative AI tailor a very specific response to answer their question, right? But if that customer needs to escalate from a self-service to an assisted service channel, like a live chat with an agent, now using generative AI to provide insight and summary to that agent about what that customer's question is, or what they've already tried or what led them to that point. Now, when a case needs to be created, right, giving all the agents who touch that case immediate insight into the history of what's been done and what needs to be done, saving them time and resources. And then once that case gets resolved, Now Assist is going to help automatically generate those resolution notes and even draft a net new knowledge article for that issue that you can then push back out to your self-service channels to deflect and contain similar issues like that from happening in the future. Now, a lot of customers are going to then send a survey or a lot of agencies are going to send a survey to your customers saying, hey, how did we do, right? Rate us on a scale of this, rate us on a scale of that, maybe provide some free-form comments. Gen AI can even summarize all those responses, all those comments back and bring new insights into how your customers feel. It's truly voice of the customer, right? It's like when I'm looking at a product on Amazon, and I can see that there's 10,000 reviews, but Amazon's actually just going to summarize for me. A lot of customers are saying this, they like this, they don't like that about the other thing, right? So imagine having that voice of your customer and all that insight at your fingertips. Now, in the CX side of things, we also have a number of customers who use us in the contact center, right? So we apply things like generative AI to be able to analyze those real-time voice transcripts from phone calls. And that's going to help you learn where your areas of service improvement lie. And coupling with that with the automation of generating call wrap notes, right? So every time your agent hangs up the phone, they spend a couple minutes typing up what was done. Gen AI can automate that process as well. And that's going to help contact centers improve a whole number of KPIs, like reducing their average handle time, lowering their average wait time, reducing call abandonment rates. And all of these are driving up, CSAT, NPS, FCR, which is going to provide tremendous value for our agencies. So to kind of summarize, right, if you just want to think about three things that, Gen AI for customer experience provides with Now Assist, is that Now Assist is easy, simple, and fast. It's got a very low barrier of entry with these pre-trained LLM models. It's going to help you drive your mission success by improving citizen and employee engagement, and as well as improving your operational efficiency. And it's going to enable faster adoption of new capabilities as we continue to innovate with those twice yearly releases that Sergio had talked about earlier.
Yeah, Matt, thank you. That was a great presentation. And I just want the audience to know, and perhaps you want to comment on this, Matt,
Hmm?
how the approach and the model you're describing with virtual agents, with using multiple sources of data to generate answers, whether it was the conversation in a call center
Hmm?
or other cases, they're very similar to what Chris was talking about for ITSM.
Hmm?
And at our core, we're doing this generation of content that you would normally previously have to create on your own in ServiceNow.
Mhm.
Because we have access to the same sources that a human would have had source access to, and they would have to take their time to type it. And we can do
Correct.
that in seconds now.
Absolutely.
And you're seeing it, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're seeing this in customers, at customers. We're seeing this as a company, in the commercial sector, private sector, in public sector. People are taking advantage of these kinds of capabilities.
Absolutely. And what we're finding is that it's actually allowing our customers to be able to scale their capabilities without necessarily having to scale up their staff, right? It's all
That's
about
right.
being able to do more with less while improving experiences for everybody.
And again, we're doing this in the context of the ServiceNow uh, application of the instance that they've had for a long period of time, where they've already been doing these kinds of actions, but using people to do them. And we're describing a way where we can use the generative AI technology to do these things for them. So those same people can be more focused on serving customers, more focused on ensuring that their processes are the right processes, and so on and so forth. So,
Elevates them to more higher value tasks. So,
right, 100%. So thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you being here. We're going to jump back into our presentation with another polling question on this important topic of customer service management. Kaylee, if you could throw that polling question up there. I'm going to go ahead and at this time introduce our last presenter, my colleague Joe Fiedler, who is an expert in HR service delivery and how Now Assist is going to be a game changer here as well. Joe, please turn on your camera and join us. We're excited to hear from you about how agencies are serving their most important customer, their employees. So, Joe, take it away.
Thank you, Jonathan. And so you phrased it absolutely correct. Who is our most important customer but our employees? And so with Now Assist for HR service delivery, how can I use that to provide a better experience? How can I save time? So one of the biggest things we often deal with, as public sector servants and, internally looking at our documentation, I have policies, I have processes, I have job aids. These are often, multi-page memos that we need to review to find information that we need. So let's turn that into a conversation. I'm going to search, I'm looking for something about my specific benefits or contract information that might be out there. I can go to my service portal. I can ask, what are my benefits for X? And it returns to me, instead of just this search result for a 10-page document, it answers my question in that single paragraph, linking to that source. So I got my answer. I've saved time by doing that search and immediately executing into that information I need. Other key piece of this with HR service delivery, very often we can get into the specific kinds of requests that we have with our organization. I, Joe Fiedler, working with my agency, I went to, the Wharton School of Business and I took a JavaScript course for $600. And I asked, the virtual agent about the tuition reimbursement policy. Well, first it's going to confirm, all right, we're reimbursing tuition. Let me grab the information you gave me, your school you went to, the course, how much it costs. That's already out there on your catalog. But let's grab the missing information. When did you go? Did you get your approval form signed? Can you attach it? Where's your transcript? But it's basically guiding that user through a conversational experience of immediately connecting to HR and begin that line of service. And to that other side, we want to think with HR, they're often working through these cases that can run not only, days and weeks, but even months long. And they're gathering a lot of esoteric information together in one place. And me coming back and looking at this on a weekly basis, it grows. It can be up to 20 minutes to maybe even review this case, depending on what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to put together. And just like we saw with the other solutions, you can summarize all this information, the chats, the different activity that's going on. And I can see what the initial issue was, what actions have we done, what's happened in this case, as well as providing a resolution for that. And just like my colleague before me mentioned, I can take those resolutions. I can put that in the resolution notes. So gone is the day on that practice of, oh, case solved, closed. We have meaningful information in those resolution notes, and that can be used to generate those knowledge articles that we need forward. We're not working from a blank slate anymore. And the kind of third key piece of this is also understanding with the kind of data interactions we're using with generative AI and our large language model, HR especially needs sensitivity detection. If I come forward with something such as a labor grievance, an EEO complaint, that language needs to be picked up and saying, okay, this is something that is sensitive and highly impactful. I want to make sure that that employee is not suffering in silence and through a process, and get them immediately connected with the individual human person they need to go to. So this is where we were talking back earlier about having those fallbacks that are required to go to a human person. This is the type of issue where we need to drive directly there.
And again, Joe, you're following in HR service delivery. Now Assist is following a similar model as we saw for IT service management, as we saw for customer service management, customer experience. We're enhancing people who are serving customers because we're creating the resolution notes. We're creating, we're documenting or summarizing a case so they can get up to speed faster. We're making it easier for people to use ServiceNow. The generative AI technologies are a tremendous accelerant for using ServiceNow effectively, serving customers effectively, our internal customers, our employees, our external customers, might be another government agency, might be a citizen. We can just do it faster and we can do it better. And just like you were sharing, we can take those same HR specialists who spend a lot of time researching and understanding, answering questions, and train them on more important things. Maybe they become focused on culture. Maybe they become focused on other processes or integrating systems or other kinds of things that haven't been done yet. So we're changing the game for how HR service delivery happens with Now Assist. So, Kaylee, I want you to put up our last polling question on HR, and then I have just a couple of concluding thoughts to share. So, we're spending a lot of time on these things, I think. So let's see what the audience says. So, Joe, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. I just want to, thank everyone who participated in today's conversation. Both the ServiceNow team and everyone who listened in. It was really quite an engaging conversation. I felt very informative. My hope is that this is only the beginning of a conversation. It's a dialogue between ServiceNow and everyone who joined us today, and your colleagues, and the rest of your agencies. There's so much about this topic, from the executive order that we talked about in the beginning to how ServiceNow platform is designed to support generative AI capabilities inside the context of our workflows, inside the context of a platform and application you're already using and getting value from, as opposed to Gen AI that is wholly new and separate and a new thing that you need to acquire. We made a very strategic and conscious choice inside this company to apply this technology to make ServiceNow platform better, to really be the intelligent platform for the way we transform the way our government agencies operate. So we're very proud of the work we've done here. We are not done. We have a lot more to do. We have a lot more to share. I look forward to continuing this conversation. Our next ServiceNow release, Xanadu, coming in a few months, is going to have more generative AI capabilities than we think any other release that's ever hit the market. So we know that there were a number of questions in the chat. We've got answers. So we're at time. So just one final thank you, and we look forward to talking more very soon. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you, team. I'd like to thank all of our participants as well as our speakers for being with us today. We hope this information that you received has been helpful. If you have any further questions, like he said, or would like to request more information, please feel free to reach out. Thank you again and have a great day.